Okay. Thing is recording, we're good. So everyone's just staring at me getting started. It's 1 o'clock, people are rolling in. I'm gonna give about right till 1:01, and then we'll get started. Also give me a quick shot. If you can see my screen, you should see the track donor engagement slide. Everyone can still hear me loud and clear, I'm assuming, as I'm rambling. Perfect. This is going to be very interactive, so I want to see lots of chats come through. Love it. All right, looks we're at 50. Can we get to 100? Usually the last, big push comes at the last 30 seconds. Usually a lot of people just jump right in, so we'll see. All right, 101. I'm going to get started. I'm going to honor your time. I do think this would be a quick webinar today. Should go fairly quick, so we'll have lots of time for questions at the end. Oh, there goes my camera for some reason. Oh. All right, can everyone still hear me though? Is that okay? Coming through? Sorry about that. Okay, good. I think we just have two hosts. Just want to make sure I can hear everybody. There we go. All right, I see what happened. Now we're set. Technology, am I right? That's why we're here. All right, so tracking donor engagement, boosting your fundraising efforts. If this is what you should be here for today, so you should be in the right spot. Just a quick introduction. My name's Scott. I work on the product marketing team here at Bloomerang. I've been here for almost 4 years now. I started in support, so I'm sure I've talked to maybe a few of you. If some of you are current users by chance, I know some might be still checking out what Bloomerang is, but if you are a Bloomerang customer, just give us a quick shout out in the chat if you are. But I come from a background of communications, visual media, technology. But outside of those things, I'm a normal human being. I love music, love biking, playing drums, and I got a couple pets at home. So maybe if you ask nicely, I can share some pet pictures. So let's dive into today's agenda though. So again, I think it'll be a fairly quick webinar today, so might have some time back and a lot of time for Q&A at the end. So get your questions ready. We're going to talk about just what exactly is donor engagement, and then why is it important to you and your nonprofit and your fundraising. We're going to look at signals. So what things can you look out for? What should you track that will give you hints on where your donors are at in their donor journey? We'll look at a few donor engagement strategies. What can you do to boost engagement? Some ideas. And then we will take some time to look at how Bloomerang can help. What tools does Bloomerang have to help boost donor engagement, track donor engagement, all those things. And Q&A, and a quick word on that with Zoom. Right now, a lot you can see are coming in through the chat, and that's fine. But if you have a question that you really want answered, there should be a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you're logged in on a desktop. And if you can enter questions there, that will save them in a list, and I can be able to walk through those at the end. The chat can get a little messy. I'll try to answer those in real time, but it might be a little bit difficult to scroll all the way back up to the beginning at the very end. So again, if you have a question you really want to answer, put that in the QA section, but I will try to look at both at the end. So let's dive in. Here we go. So what is engagement? First of all, it's not just giving history. So we're going to look at a few things today that will kind of flesh this out a little bit more, but we're not just talking about giving history today as far as engagement. Your donors interact with you in a variety of ways on a regular basis. They read your emails, they may share your campaigns on social media, volunteer opportunities, promoting your mission to others, whether it's through word of mouth or in-person meetings. All these factor into what we consider engagement of the donor. So just as a point of clarity today, this is not just about people's giving trends in history, but everything that encompasses a complete donor profile. And what we believe at Bloomerang is that measuring that engagement and measuring that kind of complete donor profile Not just, again, that gift size and demographic information, but they'll provide you some powerful data for segmentation, for personalization, and ultimately boosting your fundraising efforts. And just a couple of points. Why is this important? Why track all of this? Donor engagement, I hesitate to say equals retention, but it is, I want to say it goes hand in hand with retention. The more engaged your donors are, the more likely they are to be retained to give again. Another benefit and why it's important to track engagement is you can cultivate and retain the donors you already have. There's no need to always look for acquisition campaigns and acquire new donors, but you can retain the ones you currently have. And lastly, again, is that nurture long-term donors. Strong engagement strategies lead to long-term relationships, and long-term donors. It's crucial for fundraising. You want those that you can rely on as sustainable fundraising, and it's just more fun to have long-term donors. Don't you want donors that have been around for a while, that are part of your organization that you can interface with on a regular basis? But I want to talk about the retention piece because I do think it's really important. It really drives this conversation today. And yes, we will have the slides available after the session. Great question, Ron. I want to look at retention rates across the industry. So these are up to 2021 numbers, but let's look at this top graph. And this is the new donor retention rate. It's floating around that 20% mark, and it's actually dipped below these past few years. Who knows if the trends are due to pandemic, if there's other factors at large, but either way, that retention rate, if you really think about it, if you have 100 brand new first-time donors to your organization, only 18 of them, 19 of them are going to be back next year. So if you really think about that, you give a whole crowd of people, a whole mess of 100 people, only 18 of them are going to give back again. The rest you won't see at your organization ever again. So this is the problem that we're trying to tackle. Is how can we look at this number and improve that new donor retention rate? If you look at the bottom graph, you'll see why it's important to have repeat donors. So this is once someone gives a second time, what's their likelihood of giving again? So once you secure that second gift, the likelihood of giving another, look at that, bumps all the way to 60%. We're tripling the likelihood of that second gift. So you'll hear it a ton at Bloomerang, but the driving home that getting those first-time donors to give that second gift boosts their long-term relationship with your organization. You're looking at keeping 60% of those repeat donors. So a lot of this is engaging first-time donors and getting to that second or that repeat donor status. So that's why engagement is important, because it drives this retention rate. Let's look at the benefits of tracking engagement. So outside of retention, what are some of the other kind of fringe benefits? What comes into, what adds up to that retention rate? But before we do, I want to launch a quick poll. Some may be lost, just like the weekend here at the Super Bowl halftime show. Maybe not, but let's launch this first poll here about engagement. So how do you currently track donor engagement? You should see that poll pop up on your screen now, I believe. Do you just track giving history? Do you only track volunteer hours? Do you track email clicks? Do you have a CRM in place already that just sort of does this automatically for you? You don't really think about it. Or you're not sure, you're lost, you're wandering around the light bulbs like the weekend right now, and you're just trying to figure out where to even start with engagement. I'll let that run for about 20 more seconds or so. I'm really curious. Okay, so like majority is mostly giving history. I know it's a multiple choice answer, but I'm curious to see what people are bringing in. This gets actually laughed too. That's why I put it in. You can't have a webinar with me and not have at least a couple laughs. That's half of the reason. Past ticket purchase, that's good too. Yes. So, all right, I'll end that where it's at. Share those results. There we go. All right, so we can see majority tracking giving history. That's great. And we have, looks about 42% have also selected emails and then volunteer hours. And I like to see about a third said that there's a CRM that tracks all this automatically. And then we have a good chunk that are not really sure where their engagement tracking is. So this is really good information, good baseline. All right, stop sharing that. All right, so here are 6 just kind of key benefits of what tracking engagement can bring to your nonprofit. So really, and all this points to retention. Keep your donor engaged. You have to track their engagement, touches, meetings, events that they've attended, email opens. But what you get, the fringe benefits of engagement is you can divide your donor database into meaningful, actionable segments. So for instance, what that means is you could group your donors by the recency of their latest gifts, the number of emails they've opened, the frequency of their donations, or maybe how many events they've attended. Truly actionable segments, so you can kind of personalize those touch points, which leads right to that second point of creating more personalized acknowledgements that resonate with donors. So again, with those segments, knowing how many events they've attended or years they've given in a row, just doing it, or even if they visited your website, all those points help benefit your personalization and your acknowledgement process for your nonprofit. Next is identifying those major donors. Identify those that have high engagement. So a combination of if they are opening your emails, if they are visiting your website, if they are engaging in your social posts. All this leads to an engaged donor, which we have that research and we have this data in place that shows that those who are highly engaged and have upped their gift in the past, especially, tend to be high likelihood of major donors. So you can create those tailored stewardship plans and strengthen ties with those supporters, which again leads into the next point. You can, outside of just financial supporters, also just identify those that are volunteers, influencers, advocates. Its engagement is not just, again, about their giving history, but seeing that they're engaged, they resonate with your nonprofit's mission. You can be able to tailor your segmentations to go, okay, let's find out those who are highly engaged that can be advocates and spread that awareness for your mission to a wider audience. And these last 2 points is, head off potential lapses. Again, tracking engagement outside of giving. You might be able to cut off someone who is headed for that lapse, who maybe are right at that year mark. But you can see other things, like if they've unsubscribed from an email newsletter, or if they have not attended an event or volunteered in a while and they used to. Things that give you those signals of when a donor might lapse, and you can reach out ahead of time and be proactive instead of reactive. And all of this, tracking engagement, you can just measure progress better. You're able to, track the success of your communications, track, how you're able to heat off those potential lapses and those rates of being able to bring back those donors. So all these are, again, benefits of tracking engagement. So next, I'm going to look at the signals or what to look out for when tracking engagement. And all of these kind of feed into what is donor engagement. And this is not a comprehensive list, but this is, I would say, probably the most common and the most powerful data points to track. And I don't really have a hierarchy here, although some I would say are more likely to speak to a donor's, where they're at in their life cycle and their journey with you. But all these do feed into a donor's engagement. So their recency, their pattern of giving, how they've given, donation method. Have they only given online? Have they gone to an event and given in person? Have they upgraded or downgraded? Again, hours of volunteers, or how many events have they attended? Even small things that sometimes I think we overlook, like how they choose to communicate. Have they unsubscribed from every email that you've sent out, or do they only want phone calls? Survey responses and website visits. If you send out surveys for feedback, that tends to be an incredibly valuable, even if it's negative feedback, that still shows engagement. I think we tend to look at in fundraising it for only those that are giving us positive feedback back, but even if they are concerned about something in your organization or they want to raise a question, that shows engagement in a sense. And then again, emails, the subscription status, the open rate, the click-through rate, all those show engagement for sure. And then social media following. I think we overlook social media. I know for myself, when I see a nonprofit that I am really resonate with, that I appreciate their mission, I follow them. And I think your social media followers are a highly engaged crowd. So again, all of these kind of factor into the algorithm, the formula that creates donor engagement. So here's like a few just practical examples of how you can take these signals and have an actionable task at hand. So for instance, like a lapse risk signal. So 2 data points that you can be looking out for and pull together like a lapse risk group. So let's say if you're tracking those that unsubscribe from your emails, newsletters that you send out, or any communications, and they haven't donated in a few months. So maybe they haven't donated in like 4 months, let's just say, and they just recently unsubscribed from your email newsletter. Tag that, flag that donor as a lapse risk and reach out to them proactively. So again, if you're not tracking unsubscribe status, if you're not tracking how long someone has not been giving, then you run that risk of losing donors quickly without even realizing that they're already on that risk. And on the flip side, looking at survey responses and their upgrades. So you can build a list of major prospects just by those who have maybe given you feedback, submitted a survey response, and have also upgraded like an annual donation amount. So maybe their annual donation amount went from 1,000 to 5,000 recently. That's a big flag. That's a green flag to put them on a list of a major prospect. So 2 quick examples of how tracking data points, engagement points on a donor can help boost that fundraising, because you're not only just looking for those major prospects, you're also going to be heating off those that might be lapsing. So next, this brings us to engagement strategies. So what things can you do to boost engagement? And some of these may seem obvious, but I think it's always worthwhile to look at, so I would say, quote unquote, the foundational or the basic items to understand, what are we doing? What are we missing? Are we overlooking anything in our fundraising strategy? So here's just 10 engagement strategies. And there's no fluff on this slide. I think these are they almost speak for themselves, but invite donors to events. So maybe you're planning a special, dinner, or an auction, whatever annual event, or even a 5K, but invite donors to events multiple times even. Don't forget about those that have already been giving. It's not always about new people, bring them to new events, but make sure that you're reaching out to those that have already donated. Or encourage current donors to volunteer. In our research, at Bloomerang, our data shows that even in the midst of crisis and in tough times, donors are still willing to give, and I would say of time and of service. So encouraging donors, if they can't give financially, to still volunteer. Share impacts. This is a bigger point, and what I mean by sharing impact is engagement means telling donors how you plan to use those donations, whether it's to purchase new supplies, maybe it's like a community garden, or how their donation will help families maybe rebuild homes, whatever it is. Be incredibly specific with the impact their donation will give. Just a bulk thank you or a bulk, hey, you're helping, I would say is fine, but to really boost that engagement, get those messages to resonate with people, share how their donation is going to be impacting your organization and the community that you're serving. Call donors. This is, it can sound scary, but calling donors works. From our data, even just calling a voicemail, just leaving a, hey, thanks for donating, or hey, thanks for volunteering, can boost that retention rate significantly. So calling fast, I would say, is the key there. So waiting a month or two doesn't have the same effect as calling within a week. And I'm going to show you how Bloomerang really puts that front and center as far as your engagement strategy. But call donors to express appreciation. Send out surveys. Show donors that you appreciate them, that you want their feedback, that you want their opinion on everything from donation opportunities to your event schedule. So building in that feedback, this goes back to the last webinar we were running about retention, is that donors want to feel like their voice is heard at nonprofits. Why they stick around is because they feel like their donation is making an impact, and their feedback is welcome. So always have avenues and channels for your donors to give back. I love that, Alicia. I had such amazing comments with donors. They asked for me specifically now. I don't want to talk about our director. Love those little anecdotes. It's great. See, sometimes it's nice just to call and you get those, you can build those relationships right over the phone. Love it. Reach out via email. This may sound like a tried and true method, but create those email campaigns that introduce new donors to your mission. Always, my advice through all this is to put yourself in the donor's shoes. Really think about the last time you donated to a nonprofit that was not yours, I would say. What was the experience like? Did anyone reach out to you? Did anyone do a follow-up email or say thanks? So just as simple as a follow-up email that introduces the mission of your organization can go a long way. Number 7, I really want to touch on this point, is follow them on social media. This can be such a great way to show engagement. I have a couple nonprofits that I give to here in Indianapolis, but my favorite thing that happens is when I give or I check out their social pages and then they follow me. It makes me feel like I'm on top of the world, like I'm important, like that they are listening and they care. So just keep that in your back pocket, that even something as simple as you see someone follows you, follow them back on social media. Or if someone is talking about you or makes a post or is even just donating, follow them, show that you are engaged in that. It's a relationship that you're trying to build. These last points, engage board members in donor appreciation. So if you have your board members the capacity, get them involved, get them to make those donor calls, recruit those board members to do those stewardship activities. And I love these last 2 points. Feature major donors in newsletters, press releases, or it could be as simple as like a donor wall. And I would say virtually. So maybe it's on your Facebook page. Get creative with how you can appreciate donors, because that's why donors feel engaged. And that's why engaged donors stick around and are retained. So do something, wild, like donor wall on your social feed. It doesn't have to be in the building, or make a plaque in your building. Sky's the limit, but get creative on how you can make donors feel appreciated. That's really the moral of this slide here. And 5 questions to ask. So this is part of your engagement strategy, but I think these are important as you are formulating and building a strategy. Are you focusing on your donors' preferred communication channel? So look at your donors. How do they prefer to be contacted? And that depends on which nonprofit you're working at. Some are heavily email-based. Some are phone calls or in person, how they want to receive information, or just through socials. But focus on where those communication channels are. Second is your style and tone. Are they appropriate for your targeted audience? Targeted communication is so key to building engagement. So as like a practical example is, if someone has attended every event in the last year, you want to have different communication to someone who's only attended 1 or 2 events. Just sending a bulk email to all of your donors or all of your followers is not going to reap the same benefits as targeting those that are highly engaged, because you want to keep them engaged. As you keep engaging them, they will stick around. So I think there's a certain way of thinking of, okay, if they're already engaged, we're going to stick around forever. We need to focus on acquiring new ones, but it's a constant cycle of making sure you're engaging those that are engaged and trying to build those relationships with those who aren't. Third is your donor engagement reflect and respond to the donor's perspective and internal operations. So basically, are you just sending things that sound like fundraising and sound like it's dealing with internal operations, or is it coming from the donor's perspective? Again, sharing the impact of how their donation specifically is helping your organization. So this kind of goes hand with point number 4 of talk like a human, speaking to your donors in that kind of non-fundraiser language. So making sure you sound human, you sound on their level. People want to engage and interface with other humans. Fun fact. So try to make sure that your communications really give it a second look, and try to avoid those blanket emails. And I love this last one is, does your engagement elicit an emotional response? Or is it just a broadcast message? And one key point of this is I think is to include imagery. People like to see other faces, see people. So if your email is just your logo at the top, and then just a quick blurb, that's not going to be nearly as engaging as, say, a photo of who is being helped in the community, or a photo of someone who is on the side of fundraising. So there's research behind this point of showing faces, showing, I would say, people's faces is a huge engagement, especially in emails. And we'll kind of show this in Bloomerang as well. And really this last slide, I just want to show this, and we'll include this as we send out the slides to everyone after this webinar. This is a sample communication line. So I wouldn't say this is a comprehensive engagement strategy necessarily, but this is a great 90-day engagement / communication timeline. So this is looking specifically at new donors. So day 0, that's the donations just received. Notice day 2, that is the thank you phone call. Since our research shows that the retention rate improves greatly with a new donor if you call within that 48-hour window. Next, here's some other ideas. Do a thank you note by mail. Send a signed letter from your CEO or your executive director, and bonus points if it's a handwritten signature. I think it just shows that extra level of care and touch. And then day 10, don't be afraid to send out that survey. Ask why they're giving. What causes them to look at your organization and provide a gift. And then this last section of the timeline is touch points, and it's key to try to send 2 to 3 touch points in the first 90 days. So here we have an email newsletter somewhere in between day 10, day 25, a second email newsletter in between day 25 and 50, followed by a third email newsletter. Again, sharing the impact of their donation, how they can get involved. And then notice day 70, having a staff member or volunteer reach out, let them know the difference they're making. And then within that 90 days, make that second appeal. I talked about this in my last webinar, but don't be afraid to ask again and early. I think, again, there is a myth of you can't ask, after, within a year or within, only within 6 months, but new donors, if they are engaged, especially if they have gone through these touch points, especially if they've opened these emails or have answered a phone call, especially, and they're highly engaged, don't be afraid to ask again and make that second gift appeal. So that is a sample timeline. I want to show a success story of engagement before we dive into Bloomerang. So this is Girls Inc. of Central Alabama. And I just put a quick blurb there that when they switched to Bloomerang 2016, so I know a few years ago now, but their following year, they had a 19% increase in their revenue. Huge. And what they said, I didn't include their quotes on this slide, but they said their number one thing they loved was the engagement rating and tracking engagement in Bloomerang, as opposed to just gift amounts. So in the past, they were dealing with just gift amounts, and they were only basing their communications off how much someone is given. And then with Bloomerang, after tracking all this engagement, like email opens, their interactions, the attendance of meetings, website visits, all of these summed up into an engagement score, they were able to more personalize the communications a lot further, and therefore fundraise a little bit more effectively. So 19% increase in just 1 year with using Bloomerang. So without further ado, since it's right at 1:30, I'm going to dive right into my demo database. So let me just get out of here. Okay. So here we are, Bloomerang Dashboard. So this is what you'll see when you log in, if and when you were to log into Bloomerang. And notice right on the front page, we make it hard to miss that donor retention is the key to boosting your fundraising efforts. So right here you have your donor retention wheel, and this is going to be what I love is everything is clickable on this page. So as you are, if you want to see those 40%, those 16 donors in my demo here, you can click right through this report and see exactly those donors. So I'm going to pull my notes over here too. There we go. Still want to see your chats. Making sure I'm not missing any questions. Awesome. Okay, so back to the dashboard. Other points I want to show here that include engagement. Notice we were talking about the first-time donors. So here I have 2 first-time donors. So Bloomerang places your first-time donors that have a valid phone number right here in the dashboard. So here I have Ron Howard and Jenna. So here I have Ron donated yesterday $250. If I click here, I can convert this right to a task and assign it to one of my staff members and create an interaction and make sure that Ron gets called quickly. So this looks at anybody that's given within the last 7 days. But you want to really try to get those phone calls in within 2 days. Director Ron Howard, who knows, right? I'll never tell. Down here, I think this is really important to engagement is assigning tasks out to staff, making sure that those engagement tasks, whether it's touch points, phone calls, in-person meetings, that those are assigned out and followed up on. So here on the dashboard, I also have my tasks, so I can create new tasks from this button here. I can see all of our tasks that my organization is working on. So I can see, for example, this one's overdue by a day to call Jerry Seinfeld, maybe another Jerry Seinfeld by chance. Or I can just see my tasks. So I see, okay, I have a couple that are due by next week. So everything on the dashboard right here is a launching off point to get back into fundraising. Next, I want to look at how you can pull in those highly engaged donors quickly with Bloomerang. So what I'm going to do is pull a report of the highly engaged donors. So I click reports, and then notice I will click new up here, and all I'm going to do is start from a template. And here we have a list of some pre-built templates of what we believe are crucial reports to run during your fundraising efforts. And here I have my high potential donors report. So I just click on this, and already I have found and I've generated those that we consider highly engaged. And for some background, notice these 2 filters up here. They're important. So one is this engagement level. I'm going to talk about this in just a minute. But there is a specific algorithm and formula that Bloomerang uses to calculate whether a donor is engaged. And it doesn't look just at giving history, but all those data points. So you can either be cold, cool, warm, hot, or on fire in Bloomerang. So this report is pulling in anyone that is hot or on fire. And then this second one is donor search. And you might be familiar with this, you might not. Donor search is a wealth screening tool that is built into Bloomerang, all for free with any standard subscription. So you can look directly at what is scanned outside of your database for generosity. So examples are donor search will look at public tax records and giving history to get an estimate of someone's giving propensity and giving how much their propensity to give again or the propensity of a major gift. So in this case, this report is pulling either people who are highly engaged or those who have a high propensity to give. I'm actually just going to remove this donor search just so you can see. Okay, so I have 20 households that are highly engaged. And I'm going to click on Scott Moran. I wonder who that is. I'll open a new tab. Just keep this open. Hey, it's me. So this is just a good example to show the engagement. So here on this right side, we have the engagement level that is shown in Bloomerang. So right now, mine is on fire. So I am highly engaged with this organization. And you can see, again, talking about this donor search generosity, it is cool. So this is based off of donor search, their stats. And I can even update this to the most recent scan of generosity to see if I'm up to date. But as you see down here, this is my recent timeline activity, my giving summary. So I can see in this case, yes, I've given recently, in both 21 and 22 here. But notice that my engagement level, it's not just based on my lifetime giving, but notice I have phone calls logged, I have mass emails that have been opened, I have a volunteer activity here. So if I click on timeline, I can get an even broader view of all my activities here. So I'll click timeline. What I love is Bloomerang automatically highlights some of these signals for you. So I can see, okay, Scott's donated 2 years in a row, but he did downgrade from 99 to 66. Keep in mind that we're only halfway through the year. So in a sense, I still have a few months to go, but I have donated 2 years in a row, which shows to be a highly engaged donor here. If I want to just see everything besides transaction, maybe I just want to see the interactions and the notes I have on Scott. Here I can see all the interactions that have been sent or conducted with this donor. So I can see a phone call is logged with Scott today. I can see mass emails. Even this one, even if it's sent, notice that I can see right from this interaction, the stats. I don't have to run a report. I don't have to go somewhere else to see whether someone's opened an email or not. So in this case, this most recent one from last week, I can see it was launched, it was queued, it was sent. However, Scott hasn't opened it yet. Quick facts just from communications right from this screen. And I can go back to the timeline just by clicking this button here. So again, I can go to like maybe one of these volunteers. So I can say, okay, back in May, Scott volunteered. They can enter notes here. I can see what I love here is initiated by a constituent. So just some of these fields are built into Bloomerang. So to keep you from having to set everything up yourself. So this does factor in that engagement score. If a constituent has initiated that, maybe they raised their hand for volunteers without even you needing to solicit them. That is huge for engagement. That shows, hey, they were out there trying to find information on us and we didn't have to prompt it. So Bloomerang takes care of all this in the background. We calculate and look at all these factors and weigh them based on our research to understand how donors are engaged. And I can have other custom fields and I can track other data points on my donor down here. But I just wanted to show off that some of these features are built in right out of the box. So that is the timeline. I can scroll all the way back to the beginning of my relationship with this donor. Again, I can see their profile and their summary page where we can see that engagement level. Next, what I want to show off is what it would look like to reach out to these highly engaged donors. How do you start those communication efforts? So let's say I want to send an email to these highly engaged donors. I'll click emails. Notice right here we have email templates, and then we're going to talk about engagement surveys right after this, but there's also engagement surveys. But if let's right here, right now, if I want to start a brand new email, I'll just click new. I can do a starter template and select from one of our kind of pre-built, pre-populated templates here. So I'll just do constituent here. And what you can do is, so on this design tab, this is where you can set up the messaging. We have some sample text in here, but this is where you should focus efforts is honing in this message and crafting something that will elicit that emotional response and make them feel like they are a part of this organization. So here it's as simple as just drag and drop the elements that you need. You can even have some buttons in here if you want to take them to your website and maybe solicit another donation or solicit for volunteering. Ooh, great question I just saw. Does engagement level measure your engagement with them or their engagement? It will be their engagement with your organization. That's a great question. So it's essentially the number, the score of how much are they involved or engaged with your nonprofit. Great question. So I can build out this. I won't go through all the nitty gritty of, you know how setting up emails can be. But what I love is it can be as quick as just pulling up files, dragging and dropping. Maybe I want to add my social icons down here and link this to my Facebook account. You can change all the colors and stylize this to your organization's branding. I highly recommend taking the time to make branded and customized emails. Don't just take what's out of the box. Don't just, make it, I would say simple is great, but don't make sure that it has that personal touch added to it. So that is the key. So you can personalize these emails really down to the bone. And then when I show here on the filter section. So it's as simple as if I want to find my highly engaged donors, okay, here I have my constituent filters. I'll click add filter, engagement level right there. And let's say I just want everyone who is warm, hot, and on fire. So I'm leaving out the cold and the cool engaged. I'll click OK. And for my demo, I have 29 constituents. Notice some of them don't have emails. So, oh no, do I have to filter them out? I don't. Luckily, Bloomerang will just do that automatically. So all I need to do is just find the right target audience. So some of these don't have email addresses. So, and then notice I'm already excluding those that are inactive or deceased. It's already kind of added in there. I can also add some other exclusions, or let's say I also want to add in people who have a certain giving history. So maybe there has transactions of, let's just say, has any from this year. Date is, let's say, during this year. So now I have anybody who is warm, hot, on fire, or has given a transaction or a donation in 2022. Then I can click save and preview. Notice it's going to ask me to fill out the required. So I'm just going to put test just so we can keep this class moving today. Let's just say impact. I need to add an email interest. So I'm going to say, let's just put event for now. And I'll just say, just for the time being, from Scott. And my email, there we go. Save and preview. Oh, I already have one to call like this. So let's do July webinar. There we go. I would highly subject, don't use tests. Use something that's engaging, something that people are going to click on. Just think about all the emails your donors get on a daily basis. How can you stand out from other marketing and promotional materials? So really think about these subject lines. Start with engaging words, whether it's something like, you can help us today, even something instead of just like email newsletter. All right, so now I'll hit save and preview. And what I love about Bloomerang is that we automatically skip people who don't have an email address, that where you can't send an email to them. Maybe they have a bad email address. Maybe they fudged their email that went in the wrong way, or they're forgetting the @ symbol, something like that. So we automatically skip those addresses, or if they've opted out. So notice in this case, I have a few down here like Harry Style or John. They've opted out of email, so I'm not going to send them. I won't bother them in this sense. So you don't have to worry about if you are accidentally sending an email to someone who's already opted out of communications. I can go back and make changes. I can even see a preview of each and everyone's email as it will show up in their inbox. And then it's just a matter of hitting, I can either send now, or I can schedule this for another time. Maybe I want to just schedule this once. Let's just say for next Wednesday at, we'll do 5:30 p.m. And just like that, we have created, we've segmented, and we have scheduled an email for next week as a touch point for our highly engaged donors. So Bloomerang can really take some of the guesswork, some of the some of the sweat, I would say, out of having to build these communication plans. And sky's the limit with building, if you want to create some different types of templates and whatnot, you have all that at your disposal here in Bloomerang. The last point I want to make before we go to some questions is engagement surveys. These are very much set and forget in Bloomerang. So you can set up either a new donor survey, an existing donor survey, or a lapse donor survey. So right now I have my lapse one set up. So if I click on here, I can see the responses. So in this case, what have people said? And the response, I've only sent out one in this demo database, but if you sent out multiples, you would see percentages of what people are feeling, of why they lapsed. So maybe their priorities have changed. Maybe they felt pressured into giving. Maybe the cause is just not of interest to them anymore. All these are built and based off of our research with Dr. Adrian Sargent of what feelings, what emotive answers are there that cause people to lapse? So why do people lapse? And a lot of times it's one of these questions here. Maybe they just felt like they weren't thanked appropriately, or maybe they felt like they could no longer afford to give again. All these are valid reasons to stop giving, but knowing why your donors are stopping giving. So let's say if you saw a wildly, disproportionate reason of people said, I just didn't feel I was thanked appropriately. This is great insight into your donor database. And okay, we need to up how we're thanking donors. Or maybe for some reason they're pumping out the answer, I feel like we're switching to a different charity. Or I feel like there was just something wrong. I felt pressured into giving. All these can give you insight on how to adjust your communication plan. And again, you can design these. They kind of come out of the box bare bones, but you can build these and edit the styles to match your branding. And it's just as simple as setting and forgetting, and this will run automatically. So in this case, the lapsed donor survey, once someone has stopped giving in between a year and 2 years, then they will be sent this survey. So you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I need to send this survey to these lapsed donors. Just turn this on and Bloomerang will send this out at the appropriate time. So that is our engagement surveys. And we also have some other, tools that are useful to engagement, importing our data tools down here. You can import a number of interactions at one time. No need to manually enter every single interaction in your database. And what I love here is we also have the social hub. You can pull together those that have been following your cause and have mentioned you, and you can see who's been using the hashtags that you have started who have mentioned your organization. Pretty neat stuff. All right. We're at 1:46. I think I held right to my promise of having about 15 minutes of questions. So I want to open the floor. I'm going to check the QA chat real quick. So feel free to add some more in there, and I'm going to just go through these live. Oh yeah, great. Let me just go through these chat questions real fast. So is there a way to auto track a personal Outlook email, or only if it comes from the platform? Way to auto track a personal Outlook email to a constituent. So you can add, if I'm understanding this question right, Karen, you can add any email address to a constituent profile. So whether it came from a survey or from maybe a form on your website, but you can certainly track, even if it's an Outlook email on the constituent. And yes, we do have a BCC functionality. So if you wanted to be sending out of Outlook all your communications, you can BCC Bloomerang. It's bcc@bloomerang.me if you have a Bloomerang database, and it would send those replies and those emails back into your database and track those interactions. So great question. And I see my colleague Diana jumped in there as well. Last is the, let's see, I mentioned the virtual donor on wall on social media. Yes, I would love to hear more about that. We don't necessarily have that functionality in Bloomerang, but I do think it's a great practice and an idea. It could just be as simple as a post, maybe once a week or once a month, where you just highlight a donors, or for certain pages, like for Instagram, I know you can have like a stories section. So you could always have like an updated stories section of, hey, like here's our top donors, or here's new donors from this month. Get creative. Use the tools that are at your disposal. Great questions. All right, let me jump into some of these Q&A spots. Let's see. Recommendations for connecting email marketing tool to CRM so we can track email open clicks as part of their CRM. So this is part of it. We might have already answered it, but Bloomerang has a built-in email marketing tool. So all of this is tracked and sorted in Bloomerang. However, we do have the ability to connect to MailChimp. So if you are a power user of MailChimp and you prefer to use that and you've used it for a long time, you can connect. So I do like a MailChimp template here. I can essentially describe the template. Here, I'll just do another test real fast. Let's just say it's station 2, 3, 4. So I can filter by the audience that I want to send the MailChimp. And then essentially what you can do is you connect your MailChimp account to Bloomerang, and then you send your emails out of MailChimp, and then everything that is tracked in MailChimp comes back into Bloomerang. I know that was a lot, but short answer is yes, we connect to MailChimp, and yes, we have a built-in email marketing tool. Okay, let's see. An example of surveys that a performing arts organization could be issuing to patrons. So I would say our email surveys they're built on nonprofit best practices, really for, I would say, a majority of nonprofits. So in this case, these new donor and these existing donor surveys, here, I'll do a preview of the survey. It's just, some of these will already have questions like, do they have a high level of integrity? Can you count on them to do what is right, deliver the outcomes? So these have questions that will be automatically sent to those new donors and get their feedback on how they were involved with your organization. So I would say our engagement surveys, I think they would run for any type of nonprofit. Suggesting soft asks in the first 3 newsletters. That is a great question. And it might depend on the industry you're in. Joseph, I know that is probably not the answer you're looking for. I think the important part is making that ask within that first 90 days, if you can. I think asking earlier can reap better benefits than waiting too long. So maybe instead of a soft ask in one of those first 3, just ways they can get more engaged. Maybe it is just looking at a blog. Maybe it is just coming in for a tour, or asking for them to volunteer. You can always have an option to do like maybe a button to a donation form or page in those newsletters. I think that's always a good idea. Give them the opportunity if they feel so inclined. But I think the more important part is after that first donation, those first 3, how can you just build up that relationship? Make sure that they feel appreciated, that they know that you're alive, that you're doing things in the community. Great question. Place to annotate donor recognition. If I'm understanding right, so just if you've acknowledged a donor or in the past, so I'm thinking about this in 2 ways. One is like acknowledging a gift. Yes, on a constituent. Here, if I go back to my account here. So what I can do is, let's actually go to a different example here. Ron Howard, here we go. He's my new donor. One, there is an acknowledgement section to let you know that you've recognized this donation. So far this has not been acknowledged. I can say, yes, it's been acknowledged, and I can even send a specific letter and assign that letter to this donation if I so choose. So that's one part of recognition. The other side is maybe, I'm assuming if you recognize them like on a donor wall, if you've like sent them, maybe like some sort of recognition, like a package or something, just to say thanks. I would say that is any kind of interaction or a note. So maybe if you sent something like, hey, we recognized Ron at this this event we did, I would just do like a new interaction, and you could say right here, like donor recognition. And purpose here, you could say it's maybe it's special event, and you could say it was in person in this case. Maybe you did a roast of Ron Howard or something, and you recognize Ron's gift to your organization. So you could add that as an interaction, and then that's now on their timeline, and And if you want to track that in mass, I would just recommend either using the same subject for all of them, so you can report on it a little bit easier, or you could make like a custom field down here. So maybe it's something, depending on what you're recognizing, if it's something that's a little bit more fast paced, for example, like, oh, they attended this event, and yes, they picked up a thank you gift. Something like that as a custom field. Great questions. All right, 5, I'm just gonna keep going through these. Let's see. Create a specific survey, not a template. So these surveys in Bloomerang they come out of the box with those questions since they are built on our research. So what I would recommend in this case is you could just send an email to these specific groups, and it would not be a challenge at all to build a segmentation of your lapsed donors, your new donors, and your existing donors. And then you could sync that up with either another survey of your liking, whether that is like a Google form, or if that's like a Survey Monkey, and then you could build like a custom template from there. That would probably be a fast way to do it. We also have integration with Zapier. So if you have a form or a survey tool that you use on the regular, and you want those responses to get inputted back into Bloomerang automatically, there are absolute ways to make that happen, Rachel. Great question. I think Diana might be typing up a question for someone too, but if someone gives on our website through FireSpring, will connect to Bloomerang, allowing to manually enter the donation of Bloomerang. If it's a donation, so Deborah, if it is a Bloomerang giving form, it should automatically go right into Bloomerang. I know that we have worked with FireSpring in the past, so short answer is yes, it should just go right into Bloomerang. If it's a FireSpring form or it's a different type of form, then you may need to look into either finding a way to automate that, or it would have to be manual. But yes, Bloomerang, as long as it's one of the online giving forms, I'll show those off down here. So I go to settings, website integration. So if I do like an online giving form here, here's just like a test one. So I can create, if it comes through a form like this, then it'll come right back into Bloomerang automatically. Good question. Also point out, last second here, what I love is in our website integration is website visits. If you're a little bit more technical, or you have someone on staff that is, if you put this piece of code on the back end of your site, when someone submits something on your through a Bloomerang form and then visits your website, we track that website history. So this is an incredible engagement tool, this website visit snippet, because then you can track whether people are going back to your website to read up on maybe a blog article or just check out your site again. So really great tool. I would highly recommend using it. It's super simple to set up. Again, you just copy this, paste it. If you have like a WordPress site, it would be like in the back end, underneath the header section, if you want to get technical. So if you ever need help in Bloomerang too, we have world-class support. I used to work in support, so I know they're really great people. You get someone like me, you click this question mark icon and you get live chat right away. Okay, let's see. I think that's all the questions. Any others? I know we're about at the 2 minutes left to go, so I really appreciate all the questions today. I think I had a fun time. I hope you did too, but we learned a lot. I know I zoomed through a lot of Bloomerang here at the end, but I just want to show off all the cool tools that we have to help you with your engagement strategy. But I think that is all we got, and I'll give you your 2 minutes back this Tuesday. So thank you all for attending. It's been a lot of fun today. And again, we will send, and let me send out this last survey. Oh my gosh, one more survey for everyone. Here we go. If you want follow-up, here's where to get it. If you want to get a personalized demo of Bloomerang, if you're looking to boost your engagement in fundraising, let me know. So there's that yes, please, and we will have one of our reps reach out to you. Again, it's a personalized demo. It is a no pressure situation. It's just simply to get more information. So if you're interested, fill out that survey and we will make sure we get in contact with you ASAP. And also, if you become a Bloomerang user, you'll get to talk to us more. So be part of the Bloomerang family here. So I'll leave that up for just another minute while people are exiting out. But again, thank you all for attending today. Really great webinar, and I will see a lot of you probably in the next nonprofit success webinar. So it'll be about a month. So we have some other exciting ones coming up down the road. But otherwise, everyone have a fantastic Tuesday, and I will see you around.